Okay, everyone meet Lucy Walker. There she is. Lucy, of course, the director, producer of The Crash Reel. It's her 5th film to be accepted into the Sundance Film Festival this year, of course. Among her other documentaries, Wasteland and The Tsunami and the Cherry Blossom, both of which earned her Oscar nominations. Lucy, welcome. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Well, I'm going to get the ball rolling. I'm hoping we had a packed house, of course, and so I'm going to get the ball rolling, and I'm hoping that people will join us with questions or comments. I'd love to hear what you thought. I wanted to ask you, though, this first, because I've sort of been dying to know. When we first talked, this was before the film premiered, Kevin hadn't seen it yet. So I want to know how he reacted. What did he make of it?
Wow. Well, as you can imagine, it was incredibly intense for him to see it because he had no idea. Can you hear me, by the way, okay? We're all doing okay? So we're good with feedback. Nothing I need to adjust over here. So I think it was incredibly intense. And he says that he prefers it every time he sees it, he enjoys it more and it's less freaky. But it's very shocking for him to see the parts that he didn't even remember. Yeah. Because he doesn't remember anything about the first hospital and only bits of the second hospital, which was there for months. So it's been really intense. He does love the movie. He's not sure about the end credits, but apart from that, he loves the movie. How
are crowds reacting? I wonder if there's anything. What are people? How are people responding to? What are they saying? Anything surprising in terms of the way they're reacting?
Gosh, well, I'd love to hear how this crowd reacts, but we've had a lot of people in the audience who have brain injuries or who have somebody in their family or that they know closely with a brain injury. And a comment that we've heard a lot that means a lot to us on our team is that the film really gets it right. The film really seems to have captured something about that experience of caring for someone with a brain injury that nobody else or no other film has kind of captured. And it's a kind of invisible injury. You know, it's not like you're walking around with a cane or a bandage. And so for that community that are deeply affected by what's such a complex kind of a health condition or, you know, disability, that's been very moving and gratifying for us to hear. And maybe we could talk a little bit about our hashtag Love Your Brain campaign later. And then we also hear a lot of, I didn't like snowboarding, but I really loved the movie. I love that because it's kind of interesting. It's about snowboarding, but it's about so many other things. And some people that see it, you know, I like to think that snowboarders like it. And I like to think that the people that aren't snowboarders like it too. So that's a comment that I really like as well. But you tell me, what do you guys think?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So we have 2 microphones here, so I'm hoping just step to that anytime you want, and I'll call it. There we go.
Good evening, ma'am. Paul Williams. One, kudos to the editing. I was especially fond of the editing tonight. I've been around military TBI survivors, helped care for them, have friends, et cetera, and you did get something right about what that world is right, and I commend the film for that. What I'm grinding about in my head after watching the movie is the response of the sponsors and the people that put these on and back it financially. Is anybody saying, other than playing dumb, saying anything about the dangers of the sport?
That's a good question. Firstly, the editing, I must agree, we have a fabulous editor named Pedro Cos, and I can't exaggerate enough what a genius I think he is. And he also edited my film Wasteland and did a beautiful job on that too. And I was very lucky to get to work with him again, because with an editor with a documentary, you really, they're just such a huge part of how the film is what it is. Secondly, the point about veterans, I just want to flag that up, how important that is. I've learned so much through the course of making this movie. I didn't understand how common brain injury was. And particularly among veterans, I've learned that 400,000 veterans are coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan with a severe traumatic brain injury because of the improvised explosive devices, the IEDs. They blow up, and our brain is like, it's very soft, I've learned. It's almost like a block of soft tofu or something, and it's in that skull. In the skull is very sharp and bony inside there. So when it knocks, it can really, really get bruised up and hurt and damaged, and that's what is going on with the explosions. And so 400,000 soldiers coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, it's really that signature injury. And so we're really thinking a lot about them and how we can maybe use the film, because a lot of them are also Kevin's age, and how we can use the film to perhaps be inspiring for some of them. And a question about the sponsors, that's a really tricky one. I think with the film, we wanted to raise some questions, and we do think that the conversation about safety needs to keep up with the amazing progress of the sport. Something about the sport that's really thrilling and dazzling is how quickly it's developed. It wasn't around when I was born, but now it's in the Olympics. And I don't think it's anybody being evil, but we are in a situation now where the sport's configured in such a way that these kids are getting hurt. We had a very sad experience right in the middle of being at Sundance Film Festival. We were lucky enough to be asked to be the first film ever, actually, to screen at the X Games in Aspen. So we flew from Salt Lake to Aspen in the middle of the crazy ice storm that you might remember in January. And we were the first movie to screen there for the athletes. And it was a very heavy discussion amongst the athletes. Are they protected enough? What can we do? What responsibility do they have to themselves? And also to a huge number of kids who look up to them. And they're very aware of that. And, where is the line with risk? And how does that fit with sponsorship? And the athletes all feel nobody's telling them what to do. But they are, can't ignore the fact that they are extra motivated with all the energy, advertising and promotion and funds that the sponsors are putting in. So it's a tricky situation. And then something terribly sad happened, which is that a couple of days after we screened, a snowmobiler named Caleb Moore had a crash. And at the time, he seemed to be okay. He got up, he walked away. The crash was screened over and over again because it looked like a gnarly crash that he'd survived. And everyone was at that time more worried about his brother, who had broken his back and separated his pelvis the same day, also competing in the X Games. However, sadly, he was more badly hurt than people initially realized, and he died a couple of days later. Many of you probably know the story. And we were left again to circulate these appeals for funds to help his family. And we feel strongly that these athletes should be protected, they should be insured, they should be helped. And some of the ways that we can intervene with our hashtag Love Your Brain, we're trying to put together some solid, good, reliable information on how you get insured, the importance of getting insurance, which a lot of these athletes are very young. They don't even understand the importance of getting insured. They think, well, I can just win a prize and pay off my medical bills. But then they're getting into some horrible situations. There's one athlete that we met with and spoke with a lot and didn't make the final film very much, but he has a situation where he's keeping on competing even after his brain injuries because he's worried about paying off his medical bills. That's the only way he knows how to earn enough money. It's a tragic trap, and we want to make sure kids are really well advised, able to get good information. We also, we didn't have time in the movie for these scenes, but there's some good scenes we have that'll be DVD extras where we have Kevin's family talking about the insurance. Now, Kevin was very lucky because he was in California and he had a good insurance plan that covered his inpatient care very well. And he had a fantastic care in the University of Utah Hospital. I don't know if there's anybody who worked actually with Kevin. There might be in the audience, because I know there's a lot of fantastic people that were on his team that saved his life, quite literally. His insurance, however, was terrible on outpatient care. And so we're really trying to put together this information that these kids don't even know. We're also trying to get information about what to do if you hit your head. Again, we were shocked that these athletes who routinely hit their head, you can't be competing at that level without hitting your head. As Shaun White said, he's had sort of 9, 10 major concussions. And Trevor, for example, the guy who couldn't find his elbow, he would have not been in such bad shape if he had different immediate care. The people around him weren't aware that he wasn't supposed to go to sleep when he had his injury. So he went to sleep, and then they woke up later and he was having a seizure and bleeding from his ears because the brain was keeping on swelling while he slept, and nobody had noticed that he was deteriorating. So stuff like that, we really want to get that information out. And we want to have a conversation, and I think the sponsors are all caring individuals who are close to the athletes. And, I think everyone wants to have a conversation about, how do you respond? X Games has actually canceled snowmobiling since Caleb Moore's tragic death, and are investigating. And we must say, on the Crash Reel team, we're very pleased about that, because when we were editing that very, very horrifying series of crashes, which we wanted to include because we felt like it was really important to talk about the severity of what we're talking about and how common it is. There are a lot of horrible, horrible crashes that come with the territory. And we wanted to kind of confront that and provoke that question by including that sequence of crashes. And I must say that when we did that, the crashes with snowmobiles, there were so many to choose from that were so grisly and horrifying. And we kept looking at each other and saying, is this a sport, or is this like almost like the Hunger Games or Gladiators, where these kids are just being, smashed to bits by these giant 450 pound machines? And I must say, I'm worried that sport really is. There's a line in there somewhere, and for me, that sport is not on the right side of it. And I'm so sorry about that. And I do think that the responsibility needs to be questioned moving forward, because these kids are amazing and so vibrant and so creative and so talented, and we want to keep them that way.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jade. This is my second time seeing the film. I saw it at Sundance and I loved it. I brought a big group of friends with me tonight because I felt I needed to share it. So I have a two-part question. Number one is a film nerd question. I love the opening sequence with the guy in the light suit. I was wondering if you could talk about how you conceived that and why you included it. And my number two question is a fan question. How can we share this with more of our friends?
Oh, these are two great questions. Thank you. I love the film nerd question. I'm very impressed also that you spotted it was a light suit. Many people think that it's a negative image because it's so cool. It's hard to see what it is. It took me a few times to understand how it happened, because it looks like a negative where the black is white and the white is black. But actually, it's made up of, it's shot at night, and the guy is wearing tiny little LED lights all over his body, and so he's glowing. And I can't take credit for this. That is created by a wonderful filmmaker called Jacob Sutton. So credit goes entirely to him. And I must say, I just my hat is off to him. I love it so much and think it's absolutely perfect. And thank you for noticing. And second question, I love this question. Yes, please. A few ways to be involved. The film is coming out. It's going to be on HBO in July, and then it's going to be in theaters around Thanksgiving, and then it's going to be on DVD next January. So it's kind of a long rollout, but we are really excited that means lots of people are going to get a chance to see it. And so we'd love for people to go into our Facebook. We have a wall that's really fun, because the people in the movie, all the Pierce family and all the Friends crew, and especially Kevin and David and Adam, read the Facebook wall and love it. And we talk about it all the time. And the comments and feedback that they get on the wall is very interactive. So we're the Crash Reel on Facebook. We're also the Crash Reel on Twitter, which is really fun, and we keep people up to date. We've got all kinds of special stuff. We're also giving away special additional scenes exclusively. We're just, I think, starting in about a day or two, we're just getting that uploaded as we speak. Here at Crash Reel HQ, we are uploading our brand new theatrical trailer, which is going to be really fun. And we're also some deleted scenes and extras. So if you do want to get involved, it's all going to be up there on the website, and that's thecrashreel.com. So please stay involved, and please tell your friends. This is a word of mouth. Documentaries need word of mouth. And I'm so happy you're seeing it twice. I personally love the movie and want to watch it over and over again. And I think there's so much in it, and I want everyone to see it. And I was actually just with Adam and Kevin this last week. We were at the South by Southwest Film Festival, and they were really talking about why they had decided to make the film. And it was just so beautiful the way they talked about it. You know, they really want people to know what they've been through. They think that it's really important that people have an honest understanding, and really, they were raised never to hide their disability. So when Kevin was hurt, it was natural for them not to pretend it was fine, but to be honest. And that's why the film, I think, is good, is because this family, not only is this family remarkable, but they're remarkably honest about all the challenges that they've faced. And I think that's why I feel so lucky to meet them and make the movie. And I think why you audience have a chance to really, be gripped by it, because they're really not hiding anything behind their backs and pretending everything's okay. They're really going there. And that courage that Kevin in particular has to share, even the most painful, excruciating, horrifying challenges in his life, and is digging deeper than I think most of us will ever have to, and he's just sort of naked with that. And that really moves me. And I want to sort of really make that available to as many people as are interested. So thank you. Please do help spread the word.
Go ahead.
I also love this movie and have now seen it twice. When I first saw it at Sundance, in the audience here, as a matter of fact, was one of the doctors from the University of Utah that had worked with Kevin. And he asked a question that I thought was so interesting. I would love to hear you address it again, which was, where did the comparison between looking at the disability that David was born with and the I guess, gained disability that Kevin ends up with, how it came to be that you were kind of comparing those and contrasting them in the movie. And then my second thing is, you also shared with that particular audience something that I think David had said after seeing the film at Sundance about being able to accept his disability.
Oh, thank you. Lovely questions. Thank you. And I love that you're seeing it twice as well. Thank you. We had a very moving screening right there at Rose Wagner. And by the way, I wish I was there. I couldn't be there tonight. I wanted to be there. It's a long story, but here I am on Skype. So thank you so much for that. And we had an amazing world premiere right there in Rose Wagner. And it was very harrowing, though, I've got to say, because David, Kevin's brother with Down syndrome, who you've just met, was in the audience. And he was making very loud sobbing noises and, emotionally very big, reacting very loudly, lots of crying and sobbing and sighing through the movie. And I had goosebumps, as I think most people did, just being reminded how harrowing and emotional and devastating and shocking and scary and intense and just what a unimaginable life trial the Pierce family had been through. And then at the end, he got up, and it was so happy to see him so happy was just then extra delightful and rewarding and amazing, and makes my job all worthwhile, I tell you. And then somebody asked him an amazing question, and they said, "So, David, can you accept your Down syndrome now? That you've, now looking at the movie, how do you feel about accepting your Down syndrome?" And he said, "You know what? Now that I've seen the movie, now I can do it. I can accept my Down syndrome." And, for me, that's no praise comes higher, than that. And that final scene, I think, for me was a good example of a scene where I challenged the greatest screenwriter on the planet to have come up with that final moment in the Thanksgiving scene where Kevin and David are kind of inspiring one another to try and accept their disability, even though it's the hardest thing for both of them. And we didn't have that ending scene. Actually, we'd already submitted to Sundance and gotten in, but I wasn't sure that the ending, we'd originally had a sort of different ending that wasn't kind of as good. And I wasn't sure that it was as good, but it was okay. And I was looking forward to sort of spending Thanksgiving with my family for change. But I was like, oh, no, I should go back. I should keep trying, even though we already got into Sundance, I feel like we've got to really do the best job we can. And I'm not sure if that's the best ending yet. So I went back not knowing if we'd get a better scene or if I was just wasting my time and stopping, and cameraman from getting a nice Thanksgiving and annoying my family and all the rest of it. And then that scene happened, and I thought, blew me away. And I think that, as the question says, that comparison between the disabilities, one from birth and one from, sudden, is really strong in the film. And I've never seen anybody as eloquent about Down syndrome as David. Obviously, he's an incredibly smart guy and just uniquely eloquent. But I also think that that's a testament to the incredible parenting that his family, the incredible support of the family. And I think constantly about that family. And I'm so glad. I hope it's captured in the movie. I think it is. That's the goal. But I could bore you forever about how they related to one another and how trying it could be, both, I think, David and Kevin, really struggle. And I hope that comes across in the movie. It's not easy. And the family are really so remarkable in their patience and in their emotional intelligence, in their relationship skills. And somebody rushed up to them at Sundance, actually, at Salt Lake Airport after seeing the movie and said, you're the parents in the crash reel. And inspired by you, I'm going to completely change the way that I'm a parent. And I loved that when they told us that, they were so happy to hear that. And I feel that's something I love about the film. I think, I feel like we could all use parenting classes from the Pierces. And I think that's something that the film achieves. And I think we could definitely use classes in, what it's like to be disabled and what is it like to adjust if you're the disabled person or if you're around a disabled person. I think we need a lot more awareness about what that's like. And so we're much more comfortable and talking about it and really making sure that we're helping people with disabilities and enabling them to do all that they, possibly can. So I'm really, really thrilled about that aspect of the film.
Yeah, go for it.
Did the guy ever respect his mother after he talked to him?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's a great question.
Was Trevor nicer to his mom? Is that the question after Kevin?
Yeah, that's the question. Yeah.
I think it seemed like they came to Sundance, and it was wonderful to have them there. And my hat is off to both of them. I think that is a difficult situation, and they're trying so hard and were so gracious and amazing. And I must say at Sundance that he did seem to be being very nice to his mom, so I hope so. I think Kevin is a really inspiring character because he's so honest about how tough it is. And then, I think he can really earn our inspirational, kind of appreciation. I think he can truly inspire us because he doesn't sugarcoat anything. So that kind of honesty, I think, is really, really helpful in a really tough situation. And I think it does make an impact. It was remarkable being around Trevor at Sundance because, as Kevin says in the movie, it's such an invisible injury. It's hard to know how much he's understanding of things. He really enjoyed watching the movie and wasn't sort of upset by it. And I was really worried about his response. But it's tough to know how much he's honestly able to process about it. But his mom was wonderful, and it was great to have them there. Sorry, that's a long answer to that question.
Good. Last question. Go ahead.
Hi. I also, this is the second time I've seen it. I was here for the world premiere. And I remember somebody asked all of them, they were all up on stage as snowboarders, his friends, his family, if they had gone back up to Park City since they were in town. And they said they hadn't yet. And I know a lot of them were going to the X Games the next day. But did they end up going back up there? And what was the discussion and feelings?
Yeah, Kevin still has a funny feeling about the half pipe. When we were at Sundance and whenever we drive past the half pipe, it's, he's got a funny feeling about it. And all the other snowboarders actually love it, and the Pierces love it, and we all love it. And obviously, the reason Park City has had crashes in it, also obviously the complete tragedy of Sarah Burke's accident also happening there, is not because there's anything wrong with the pipe. It's just because actually all the best snowboarders love it so much that they tend to train there. So then if there's a famous person crashing there, the 2 times it's been there, but that's because they love it so much, not because it's a problem. But Kevin still, I must say, I don't think Kevin is too psyched when he looks at it. I mean, I think it's just, again, it's such a, he nearly died there. And I think that's such a heavy feeling for him. It reminds us all, I think, about what a heavy thing and how lucky we are to have him. We really are so lucky to have him. And I don't know if anyone in the audience knows anybody that helped care for him, but, everything went right that day, including the sky. The weather was clear. The helicopter got there. Everybody that treated him did everything right at every time. And he was also super lucky in every possible way. And we're just so lucky and grateful for that. And you just have such excellent neuro care in Utah. So that is the good news.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Hi. I am originally from Ohio, and I moved to Utah 6 months ago. And I brought my son tonight because he's 7. And in Ohio, he was just infatuated with the X Games. And his first taste of Utah snow is just intensified everything that he loves about snowboarding. And I wanted to bring him tonight so that he didn't grow up romanticizing the entire situation. And since in credits, all he's been asking about is helmets and harnesses and, what has, happened. He's really asking me, is this sport as safe as he thinks it is? And I'm telling him no. So I really thank you for doing this film so that it's available to him. There was footage in the film of Shaun White when he was 9. Is there any plans to maybe show this to ski groups, like children's ski groups and things, so that there's an awareness of exactly what these athletes go through?
That's a great question. Thank you. And thanks for bringing your son. And thank you so much. That's really what, I say Kevin and I and all our team were very motivated by. And a few things. Firstly, on the helmet stuff, again, we're inspired by Kevin saying to Trevor, actually, grabs him and says, "You got to love your brain." And inspired by that, we're doing this hashtag Love Your Brain campaign. And there's many things we're trying to achieve with that. Some of them are getting insurance for athletes and getting advocating for them to be insured, and also getting good information about that. One thing that the ski resorts right around Sundance have been really responding. Powder Mountain was the first in, as well as Sundance Resort and Park City, and others are all coming in too, to give discounts. I think this month, March, Brain Injury Awareness Month, everyone gets a $10 discount if they wear a helmet. The trouble is the young people are often the ones who need the helmet the most. They tend to act most impulsively and take risks and aren't so good on the judgment stuff, as we know. Teenagers, actually, some doctors say that teenagers are kind of brain injured because their frontal lobe, which is the sensible part of the brain responsible for the good decision-making and thinking ahead and making wise long-term decisions, that part isn't developed very well yet, as many people know. So teenagers tend to be the ones who need the helmets most, but also feel invincible and don't tend to wear them. They less than 50% of them wear helmets, and so we're trying to incentivize them to wear helmets, not by telling them what to do, because apparently that doesn't really work with snowboarders, and not because to be told stuff, but they do like discounts. So the resorts are all offering discounts, and we think that wearing a helmet is kind of at that tipping point, kind of like seatbelts used to be, or I guess bike helmets are also now, where it used to be sort of uncool and nobody bothered, and then it became, without question, something that everybody did, like wearing a seatbelt today is something that nobody questions. So we want to get helmets to be at that level. And it's shocking to us that they're not even mandatory in competitions. And so we're also trying to really rebrand helmets as something that the pros do, because, they need to keep their, again, you need to love your brain, as opposed to something that the pros don't do because they're so, badass or something. So, and I think it's really important to be aware of risk and what you're doing. And I think the more the wiser you are. And that's the wonderful thing about documentaries. I think when you watch them, you can't help but change your behavior in a very organic way. You just, once you know something, or you feel emotionally connected to somebody, or get to see the world through somebody else's eyes, or get to see the horrible consequences of a behavior, when it's not glamorized, when it's really in detail explained, and you're taking on the emotional journey in the shoes of, the Pierce family, then I think that's the kind of thing that truly, gently, deeply changes our behavior. And even like, overcoming prejudice, or getting to know people on the other side of the world. I think that the world becomes a better place through media. I think the stories that we are now, coming to learn about people who aren't like ourselves is contributing to this, a world that's much less violent and much sort of more compassionate towards, amongst people who aren't alike. There's a great book called The Better Angels of Our Nature by a guy called Steven Pinker that talked about this last year. And I was really happy because it kind of reminded me, it was he's a very clever Harvard kind of a guy. So it's the brainiac version of my thinking. But my thinking has always been that you really, once you get to know somebody, you can't hate them, you can't judge them, you sort of just, you empathize with them, and you see your own similarities. And I think same thing with helmet awareness. When you understand exactly what it's like to have this horrible injury, it's going to make you think twice about the kinds of risky behaviors, and particularly the crashes. Again, that's why we sort of put the crashes in there, because there's something that it's so easy to be glamorous about and be a YouTube hit. But actually, we wanted people to have a real look at what a crash entails and how life-changing it can really be.
Okay, so I had mentioned 2 questions ago we're going to have last question, but I'm really going to give you the last question.
Thank you. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for not holding back on the fact that he did have to take a lot of medicines. And because I personally am epileptic, and it is because of a head injury. And so I think it's really awesome that you did show that it does take a lot. There are more things than just the pain that come with it. And I'm not saying to everyone, go take drugs, please don't. But I just wanted to say that it's so great to see the unglamorized version, like you said, and also that he said that he wanted things to go away, because that's how anyone with any type of problem is. We all think that's how we want it. We want it to go away. But just a little quote for anyone that is having that, and for just a little plug of what I thought while I was watching this. Actually came here on a date, and this is my first time seeing it. But it was just a quote that I've heard many times, and it says, never regret. If it's bad, then it's experience. If it's good, it's wonderful. So just, it's so great to know and have that connection of, it doesn't have to be just a brain injury. You need to love your brain no matter what. because epilepsy is not a brain injury. There's all these different syndromes and problems that aren't necessarily brain injuries, but it's still a problem. And so my question is, the Love Your Brain campaign, is that just for brain injuries, or does that kind of encompass anything that has to deal with problems and the effects of any part of the brain dying, because that will not come back?
Great question, thank you. The hashtag Love Your Brain campaign, we're incubating it right now, and what we're doing is we're getting a lot of feedback from audiences, because you're amongst the first audiences. You lucky people in Utah have had, this is the second time round, but we finished the film like the week of Sundance, so mid-January. So we're just sort of almost 2 months in, not even 8 weeks since this is a sort of very young thing, and it hasn't been out sort of widely. It hasn't, most of the world hasn't had a chance to see this yet. But what we're learning from audiences, we're feeding back into the Love Your Brain campaign, and we're really trying to best partner with various different organizations and do these various different initiatives. Right now, we're really regrouping based on our initial outreach. So please be involved. We'd love it. We don't think it just is about traumatic brain injury. There are lots of people who are struggling with all kinds of, as you say, brain stuff. And there's a lot that there's in common. It's, it's invisible, it's challenging, it's extra challenging sometimes because your brain is what you have to process, your brain injury or your brain condition with, and there's lots of sort of similarities and differences, and I'd really encourage you to be in touch again, our Facebook wall, or email us or Facebook message us through my website, through the film's website, through the Facebook page. We love it. We're a super responsive team, and we're partnering with lots of people. We're also very involved with Down syndrome, as you can imagine, because of we think David is such a superstar. So we're also partnering with Down syndrome organizations. So there's a lot of intellectual disabilities and conditions that we're really trying to do outreach around. So we'd love to be as inclusive as possible. And it's also something that people can run with. It's an open source platform. In other words, if somebody wants to do something with hashtag Love Your Brain, go for it, and just we'll be in touch and work together. But it's Kevin's doing a lot for it. We're doing a lot for it. Everyone else is doing a lot for it. We want to sort of find as many partners and get as much achieved as we possibly can. It's amazing to us how I just didn't know that much about it before, and I feel like people don't, but so many people have been affected. So it's just such a joy to be involved and be feeling like we can, and Kevin is so happy that his story is doing some good in the world. And it's so motivating and so rewarding. So let's keep doing it. And thank you so much. Please be involved. And I'm so happy to see you. And Doug, as ever, you are the most charming, amazing MC on the whole planet. So it's really nice.
Well, Lucy Walker, thank you congratulations on the film. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much.
And thank you all very much. Thanks for sticking around. Take care.